So we're going to take a look at this Zelensky and Trump arguing. And if you're one of those people who allowed the last administration to brainwash you and you live your life based off of media narratives instead of facts, you probably looked at this situation and said, oh, evil Trump is trying to strong arm Putin or strong arm Zelensky, and Zelensky was a real tough guy for standing up. But if you don't live your life off of media narratives and base it off of facts, you probably seen what is really happening here and how the last administration was successfully able to brainwash half of the country, over half of the world, into this mindless, Putin is a evil warlord dictator who wants to take over the whole world, and Zelensky's this great guy, ex-actor who is struggling to keep the last vestiges of democracy alive in his, But what became clear to me in this interview was that Zelensky lives his life off of media narratives. He's been, dealt spoon-fed the narrative that Trump is a Putin asset for the last 8 years. And apparently he actually believes it because he didn't want to look like, he was over there more worried about virtue signaling to look like a G.I. Joe than actually trying, and who started the war and whose fault it was, than actually trying to get this war over with. And exactly what Trump said, he is flirting with the potential of World War III here. And let's just get into it here.
And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America. And for the good of the world, I'm aligned with the world. And I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way, so that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I want to respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden, of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure. Yeah.
I actually think JD Vance hit the nail right on the head right there, as good as he possibly could have. These leftists, they don't live in reality anymore. You hear the brainwashing come out in the questions that the reporters even ask. Well, some of them are more worried that you're too aligned with Putin. That's because the last three administrations, by the way, at least Biden and Obama, their whole foreign policy was essentially to ignore Putin, and he was a dictator, so they could never even be in the same room with him, which is the most ignorant. It's like the dumbest foreign policy anyone could ever come up with. Let's pump the airways with propaganda about how evil Putin is. That way we can save our economy by all this government spending in the guise of protecting democracy. Well, Trump is done with all that shit. But JD Vance hit it right on the head, because the last administration, Biden and Obama, they were the type that the optics of doing something, of appearing to make moves, was more important to them than the end in itself. So they'll do anything, basically, in order to keep the optics up, as long as that makes it to where Putin looks like the evil guy and the West looks like the powerful, strong, defender of democracy. Then all is well in their eyes. Regardless if World War III is 3 months around the corner, that's irrelevant. As long as the optics look good, that it won't be their fault if it does happen. And JD Vance and Trump, they're realists. They live in reality. They understand that we're not going to fix this country by hope. Hope is the fool's ally, and they know that. And so imagine being Zelensky, and this whole time you've lived your life off of these media narratives that Putin is this horrible dictator, and Trump's right there in bed with him. He's a Russian asset, despite there's no evidence to support any of that whatsoever. But the people that Zelensky has been dealing with before this, they believed all that shit. If they didn't, they pretended that they did. All he had to do last time was show up here to the White House for a day, and he walked away with sacks of $1 million bills over his shoulder. And didn't even have to give anything back. Europe, the money they gave was in the form of a loan. We just gave it to him for nothing in return. Trump's like, no. Like, you got to give us something for that 170 billion we gave you last time. Then we'll be square. Then we'll worry about this minerals deal. That's the thing with the minerals deal. But as JD Vance said, he's more worried about, virtue signaling and looking strong, in the eyes of his people. And he gets to play G.I. Joe for a little while longer. And like, Trump and Vance are like, look, we need to end this war before it escalates to World War III. So it's like, if you don't understand what's the dynamic that's happening here, is Zelensky has been on board with this globalist agenda, and all the media lies that come with it. He's been right there on board. He was a part of it. He was supposed to be in the middle of a war, yet he flies over here to campaign for Kamala for a couple days and then flies back. Like, that shit don't happen unless you are right there in the mix of this grift, and Trump and Vance is on to it. So is the rest of America, unless you're a deluded leftist who still somehow has trust in the media. Other than that, it was obvious to everybody that can watch this video exactly what's happening. So MSN, MSNBC, they report that Trump has blown up the global world order by blah 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 something with Zelensky, and in a way, for once, they're actually right. Yes, Trump and everybody that supports him is done with this globalist agenda of thinking we can inject democracy or we have to fight for democracy all over the world in third world countries. We should be defending democracy, and they still have this crazy idea, despite the fact that it's failed 1,000 times, that we can inject democracy in these countries that the prerequisites for it don't exist, and somehow it's just going to spread and turn the country from communist to democracy. And it just doesn't work that way. It's been proven false every single time. But that's the world Zelensky still lives in. So I hope that helps somebody out there. Let's get back to this thing. Let's look at this next part here. It's really fascinating.
Conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems? Bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's
Then why are you arguing like a child? Why are you arguing like a little girl?
to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future.
Like arguing with the kids.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
You know, really, right there, that was the big moment for me of this whole debate. Is like, these leftists, sometimes they have like God complexes, or they just don't live on the same they literally live on a fairy tale plane of reality that doesn't exist, you know. And Trump calls him out on it immediately. Like, dude, you're not God. You don't know that we're gonna feel it in the future to even say some shit like that. Like, you're not God. You don't know. So why would you, you know, it just shows you how deluded these people are. And Trump knows that he's been a part of the grift the entire time. And, you know, Trump knows that this dude is an actor that has successfully acted his way to the biggest payout of his entire life. And he's trying to do it again, and it's not working this time. It's being shown that he's used to dealing with people that live on that same deluded, unrealistic plane of reality as he did, you know. And JD Vance hits the nail on the head again here in just a second.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this.
you're
You're in no position to dictate
He's not.
what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very
you will
good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right.
It's like you don't understand that, you know. Without us, you are effed, dude, completely. Yet he's still over here arguing as if he has all these other options.
From the very beginning of the war,
you're not
Mr.
in a
Brown,
good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
You're
playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
And there it is. Again, man. JD Vance is... He's so good, man, at picking out exactly the real issue here. And it's just that. It's these leftists, man. They have been able to keep up the delusion for so long that now that they've lost it, now that the people is not falling for this shit anymore, they don't get it. They're not comprehending the fact that that whole system that you guys built is over. You know, we don't care about the virtue signaling and the political plays that you're trying to put on. You know, that's what the Obama administration, the Biden administration, Kamala Harris, let's beat our chest and let's talk about how evil Putin is and how he's so evil that it's out of the question to even negotiate with him. And it's like, that's what Zelensky is trying to convey here the whole time. No, you guys just don't understand. He's such an evil dictator and he wants to take over all of Europe. And it's because he's believed these media lies this whole time. Like, never once did it occur to him that maybe he was being played, yes, by the United States to weaken Russia, which was the real goal, you know. And none of that's ever occurred to this dude. He's convinced, brainwashed actually, into convinced that he's in the right here still, and he's still got cards to play. And the fact is, he don't. 300 billion and you still lost. Like, unless we want to kick this into actual wartime production mode, this proxy war is got to end, period. And the left don't understand that. You hear all the dumb questions from the reporters. They act like we have all these other options and we don't.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said
that
thanks.
shit, he's literally deluded. We've been alone. Are you joking, dude? The entire Western world was behind you in the beginning. If y'all didn't squander 100 billion of the 300 billion we gave you, you might be doing a lot better off. But no, I bet your friends are rich.
Cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only in
allowed.
this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
So what about West?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say
Right.
thank you.
I said a lot of
except
times,
that
thank
they're
you.
You can't do business with someone that doesn't live in reality. And that's, you know, I'm not a Trump dick rider, but I'm sorry, man. I cannot condone this behavior out of this dude. Trump did make fun of his outfit, you know, and I thought that was kind of unnecessary. But at the same time, Trump's got a kind of has a point. You're showing up to the Oval Office, the most powerful office, and you wear sweatpants and a half button-up sweatshirt? Like, what are you doing, dude? Are you trying to look like Commando Joe, or are you trying to look like the respectful leader of a country? Like, I just don't get it, man. Like, you could tell there's this dude, there's something wrong with this dude. He's successfully convinced half of the West, along with his own country, that, you know, he really cares. He really wants to end this thing. And I really don't think he does. I think Trump is right. I think his hate for Putin and his wanting to appear like the good guy is clouding his judgment. And he really thinks he's going to fuck around and get to where nobody wants to deal with him.
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I'm thankful. You don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't, please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go, and I want this.
He wants more money. It's obvious, man. It's so obvious. like he got such a big meal ticket last time he came here, the last couple times, that it spoiled him. And now he's not even living in the same reality anymore. That's all he can think about now is more money.
If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what
This
they
is
think.
the thing right there.
There
That's
was
what this is all about. Trump has already said, you're not getting a guarantee. You're not, like, it's been made clear by Russia that NATO being admitted into NATO, or Ukraine being admitted into NATO, would likely escalate to a World War III situation, to a direct conflict situation. So if you're one of those delulu leftists out there going, oh, well, we ought to protect democracy and all that other dumb media lies that they've been telling for the last 6 years or whatever, are you willing to fight World War III over Ukraine? If not, then shut the fuck up. Period. Yeah, arguing with a leftist just today. I'm like, so we gave them $300 billion. 130 of it is completely just missing, totally unaccounted for whatsoever. There's mass corruption in Ukraine going on over there right now. They don't have a, young man that they can find on any street corner that's willing to go fight. And I'm like, so you're saying we should keep supporting them for what? All leftists could say to me was, to defend democracy. Which just tells me that you've just swallowed, you've been spoon-fed all these media lies, and you believe them, and you live your life off of media narratives rather than facts. It's that simple. I mean, because, and then the other thing is, it's been made clear by Russia that Ukraine being admitted into NATO is the red line for Russia. It's the red line, period, that would most likely escalate to a direct arms conflict between the USA and Russia. Vladimir Putin himself has said those words. And you know what the leftist says? Well, NATO should be able to enter or Ukraine should be able to enter any alliance it wants to enter. It's like, no. Like, you don't even know how deluded you sound when you say something like that. Look what happened when Russia tried to put missiles in Cuba. We were about to bomb the shit out. We were going to blow Cuba off the map. Would we allow another foreign country to come set up in Mexico, set up in Canada, right on our border, in China and Russia in a military alliance to join with Canada? Would we allow that to take place? Absolutely not. We would be willing to bomb them off the map if they even started producing the rhetoric to make it sound like they were going to do something like that. We would be completely 100% opposed. It just shows you how deluded these leftists are. That they still live in a world where they swallow up whatever the lion-ass globalist media and their allies has said, and they're not willing to examine the actual reality of the situation. If you say something that dumb to me, I'm not even willing to talk to you anymore, because you're obviously not a serious person, or you're just brainwashed, period. So if you're brainwashed like that, you're not going to see reason. I mean, because why would you even say, you sound so dumb. NATO Ukraine should be able to join any alliance it wants to. Like, what? Yeah, because why? Because just the USA does whatever it wants, and we're not subject to the same rules and the interest of other countries don't matter, like, you just sound goofy. And that's where he's at. He's like, ask the people of Ukraine if they want a ceasefire. What people, dude? Your entire army's dead. You can't find people anymore to fight. Like, what are you talking about? You could just tell that he lives in this deluded fantasy world where he thinks, he even said a couple days ago that, I think Trump is just, he's in a Russian disinformation bubble. That's what these leftists say when you present the facts to them. They come back, they're so deluded and out of their minds that they think you're the one that's not living in reality. You're living in a Russian disinformation bubble because they've swallowed all the brainwashing for the last 6 to 10 years about the evil dictator Putin who wants to be the next Hitler and take over Europe. Even though he said it in public interviews that he has no interest in anything like that. Now, no, you can't trust exactly what Putin says, but the fact is we have to act on the situation that's at hand. If we get this resolved, then we can worry about it if he tries to take over another country or invade another country or whatever. We'll deal with that as it comes. But let's try to get it resolved now while we can, And if you're trying to deal with a person like Zelensky that lives in this leftist fairy tale world, it's never going to happen. So, in case you're still confused on what's going on with Ukraine and why Zelensky seemed to purposefully sabotage the interview, the meeting with Trump, and he wants to keep fighting, and if you ain't realized it yet and you still live in media narrative world instead of fact world, maybe this will help you understand a little bit. So let's check this out. This was just not long ago.
That a new 3.5 billion euro payment for Ukraine will arrive already in March. Second, as President Costa just has announced, there will be a special European Council, and I will present at this special European Council a comprehensive plan for defense investment, for scaling up our European arms production and defense capabilities, but also for investment in Ukraine's defense industry, scaling up your arms production, your defense capabilities. So this will be a plan for the European Union and for Ukraine.
So that's Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, promising to scale up military support for Ukraine. John Mearsheimer, you've been studying this war for a long time. What do you make of Europe's rallying call behind Ukraine, and can it make a difference on the battlefield?
No.
Look, it cannot. So in case that didn't make it clear to you, it's all a massive grift. These countries are announcing this aid, they're taking money from their taxpayers, and then they're doing essentially whatever they want with it, pretty much. Some gets to Ukraine, but the other 50% of it gets funneled wherever they want. It's a massive grift. This is why we need to, I think we need to leave the EU completely. They're out of their minds, period. They're still, do you see why Zelensky did what he did now, sabotage the meeting with Trump? It's because he's listening to these deranged, slimy, leftist socialist leaders who just refuse to even speak with Putin, to even negotiate with him. They've banned any meetings with him at all. It's a massive grift, man, and Trump is onto it. Trump knows exactly what it is, and We're done with this shit. We're done with trying to take, police the world and help out the rest of the world when we need the money here ourselves. We're $37 trillion in debt. We are going to have a massive catastrophe. We're talking like famines and everything if this type of insanity continues. And Trump understands that. He understands that that Zelensky is just a pawn on the chessboard for these leftist leaders to use it as an excuse to continue to undermine Russia and continue to fearmonger with your and then they've been fearmongering about him wanting to conquer. He wants to attack NATO. To fearmonger their population into supporting this aid to Ukraine. But what did the man himself say? What did Putin himself say about, attacking NATO? Here's the man himself. Dumb as this table. Putin on Russia attacking NATO. Have you completely lost your mind? Dumb as this table. Who came up with this? It's nonsense, utter rubbish. And then he says the real truth. He said the rubbish of it, just to trick their own population by saying help Ukraine and send weapons, literally to fearmonger their population into supporting this. Is it not clear to you yet? This is why we say we need to leave the EU completely. Leave them on their own. Let them pursue their communist, socialist policies and do whatever they want. Now Keir Starmer has announced boots on the ground. Now France has announced boots on the ground in Ukraine. They're willing to kill every single Ukrainian on the planet in order to continue to undermine and hopefully weaken Russia. It's utter insanity. And you see why Trump just wants to come to a deal and get the war over with? In case you still don't get it, let me spell it out for you, all the way. Trump is trying to end the war. He's trying to negotiate with both sides, get the war over with, get the bullets to stop flying. But there's a massive military-industrial complex in the EU and in the United States who do not want this war to end. It's in their interest to keep it going. How are they gonna scrape money off the top for aid from the aid if they don't convince their population that this is what they need to be doing? It's insane, man. Isn't it funny that right when they're talking about getting the war over with, all of a sudden these other countries pop up starting to talk about boots on the ground and we need to defend NATO and continue to protect democracy, and we are done with that whole philosophy, that whole liberal world order thing where you think you can that we have to protect and overthrow regimes and do regime change and all this other crazy shit all over the world. It's over for that. None of us believe in it anymore. Only the deluded, deranged, fantasy world leftists still are on board with this idea. Thanks for checking this out. Please subscribe or something. It really does help.